KDB's brace against Crystal Palace has thrown a right spanner into the works in terms of transfer planning, but hopefully today's video clears it up and helps you identify the best players for your chip strategy for game week 33. Before we dive into today's video, I just want to say that we're super close to 4,000 subscribers on the channel, so if you do want to help me hit that goal, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We're starting this video the same way we've started the past few. It is going to be with Ben Krellin's spreadsheet up. I feel it's a really useful tool at the moment to potentially be looking which teams you need to go and target, which players you probably should be looking to buy, and it also helps with your potential chip strategies as well come the end of the season. As always, there will be a link to his amazing work in the description, but for me there are obviously two main strategies that people are on. There's obviously the 34 free hit and the bench boost in 37. That's the one that I'm on. Now, if you're looking for that week, you're obviously probably going to want to target Chelsea and Tottenham players, as they're going to have at least 2 double game weeks coming up. So in game week 35, Chelsea take on Aston Villa and Tottenham. Then it's Nottingham Forest and Brighton for them in 37. Tottenham will take on Arsenal and then Chelsea in 35. Not the easiest of double that one, but then it's Burnley and Manchester City in 37. So definitely still worth picking up a few assets from them if you are on that chip strategy. Now, if you're on the obviously wildcard in 35 and then look to bench boost in 37, or just even looking to wildcard in 35 and you've got no free hit chip for game week 34, your priority for the next 2 weeks is going to be looking to bring in players that do double in that game week. So you're looking at the likes of Liverpool, Arsenal, Palace, Everton, Bournemouth, Wolves and Sheffield United, and we are obviously going to focus on some of those teams in today's video. The first two players that I thought we would take a look at is KDB and Phil Foden. Now, I feel like either going for either of these two options could be really beneficial for people like myself that are on the free hit 34 strategy. They've got Luton in 33, a really good fixture. Positive fixtures as well post game week 34, plus a double in game week 37, and maybe some potential captaincy material in that double game week for 37. Now, I feel a lot of people were very set on Phil Foden after his hat-trick in midweek, and I was, to be honest. He was going to be my transfer this week. That is the way that was going to go. I was going to take Saka out and I was going to bring Foden in, but he's benched. This is what we have to expect from Pep Guardiola. Stuff like this. Champions League football obviously up in midweek as well, but then KDB coming on and getting a brace. Like, the game has been completely spun around here, especially for people like me, because, going for one or other of these guys is probably going to have some massive effects in terms of double game week 37, because I obviously want them in as well for the positive fixtures leading up to that double as well. But it's finding and determining which one I think personally is the better. Now, there is quite a big chunk in terms of price difference. It's over 2 million. I think it's around 2.1 million at the time of recording. So for me personally, on price alone, I am slightly more tempted with Phil Foden. He scored 20 goals in all competitions so far this season. He is having his I'd not say breakout season, but I'd definitely say it's his season where he's starting to establish himself as a regular up there top performing Premier League player, and the data definitely is suggesting that. This is per 90 data so far this season. As you can see, he is more of the goal scorer than KDB, involved in a lot more goals. But then you look at the assists as well, it's not a million miles away from what KDB's doing, but there's definitely a big contrast between the two. Obviously with KDB, you are expecting the more assists, as you can see highlighted in blue. He's picking up more assists, attempted assists, expected assists, big chances created per 90, whereas Phil Foden, it is more about the goals. But to say that though, there's still some pretty good stats in there for, KDB in terms of expected goals as well. Goals and expected assists, they're a little bit low, but his shots on target and shots in the box aren't too dissimilar from what Phil Foden is offering. So I feel these two, it's going to be rumbling on for the next few weeks, which one to potentially go for, like me, if you are on that 34 free hit, because both have got an amazing fixture this week in Luton. Then obviously they've got some positive fixtures post game week 34. Then they've obviously got the double as well in 37. Now at the moment, I think I am still leaning towards Phil Foden. I think as well, Champions League football for Manchester City this week is obviously going to determine which one seems to play more minutes in that. With Phil Foden having a full rest against Crystal Palace, I think that means he is kind of preferred for Champions League football rather than KDB. So we might see his minutes potentially look better over the next few weeks in terms of the Premier League, and Phil Foden's potentially diminish. So I think it is hard to say at the moment which one I would prefer out of the two. I need to see what that Champions League squad is looking like. I've got a pretty good guess that Phil Foden is going to be starting in that, and KDB probably is going to be on the bench. But after a brace today, maybe he might have done enough to earn himself back into that side. That is always the risk with going for Manchester City players. You never can predict what Pep Guardiola is going to do. KDB at the time of recording as well is the most transferred in player in the game, and there's no real shock off the back of that. Like I said, they've got good fixtures coming up, especially if you're on the 34 free hit strategy as well. It does seem quite a smart move to potentially go and get him. But for me, I think I might hold off this game week on either of these options. Just see how the Champions League tie goes. You feel if City are maybe comfortably through that first leg, I think then potentially I might look to bring them in post game week 34, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. If you had to put a gun to my head right now and say which one would I prefer to have in my side, it would be Phil Foden. I think for that 2 million less and the fact that he's just got that little bit better in terms of front of goal, I think I'd probably go for Phil Foden over KDB. But let me know in the comments which way you're leaning on this one. Moving on to Wolves. Now, they're an interesting team at the moment. I think they definitely fit into both kind of strategies and camps with the fixtures that they've got coming up. Good fixture next week, then obviously the double in game week 34, a positive fixture in game week 35, and if you're on the bench boost like me, they've also got Crystal Palace in 37, so not the worst fixture in the world. Now, they are an interesting team for a number of reasons, to be honest. Aït-Nouri is going to be the popular asset. He's going to be the one to go for. He came off early in today's game, coming off in the 57th minute due to a calf injury. Now, we're going to have to wait for any further updates on that one, because if he is fully fit and available, he will be the go-to pick. No doubt in my mind. The guy is playing like up front. It's absolutely ridiculous. We're getting a defender who is putting in absolutely ridiculous data as well over the past 5 game weeks. As you can see, 1.32 expected goals and 0.41 expected assists as well. He has been the highest scoring player for Wolves over that time period as well. So if he is fully fit and available, that is the big crux in this one. Make sure he is fully fit and available. I think he fits into both people's transfer strategies. Yes, he doesn't have a double in game week 37, but when you've got a player like this playing out of position, he can easily be on the bench and be a fantastic bench boost option as well. If you are obviously not on the free hit 34 strategy, he probably would be up there as one of the top candidates I would be looking to go and get if this calf injury isn't too serious. But that's the key caveat with that one. Sarabia is the next player. 1 goal, 1 assist for him in the past 5 game weeks. He's kind of playing up front at the moment with Cunha coming back from a long-term injury. Took the penalty today as well, which is always an encouraging sign to see. And I think if you are looking for a cheap midfield enabler over the next few weeks, maybe it allows you to go and get potentially Salah in for double game week 34 or even Saka, then I think Sarabia would be a really, really decent shout, to be honest. 12 shots as well. You know, he is getting some opportunities in front of goal. Obviously took the penalty as well today. So to have a 4.7 million player who is on penalties, I think is a really, really nice pick in that midfield option. If, like I said, you need that enabler that's potentially going to allow you to go and get Salah, Saka, one of these bigger hitters for the double game week in 34. Also could be a nice little shout on the free hit potentially in game week 34. Again, maybe just one of the bench options that does have a double. I'm probably going to whack him on the bench for me, to be honest. It just offers, you know, so much more money to go and play with the rest of the team. And then finally, it is going to be Cunha. Limited minutes so far. As you can see, 49 minutes coming off the bench today, coming off the bench in midweek as well. Only 1 point scored for him so far this, well, over the past 5 game weeks, sorry. So it's a little bit of a difficult one to kind of judge where he's at, but we've seen earlier from him this season getting himself a Premier League hat-trick amongst the goals for Wolves when he is fully fit and available. I think he could definitely be a really, really good shout. Maybe one to potentially be a little bit kind of hesitant on this week. Make sure he is fully fit and available. And obviously, like I said, he is coming back from a longer-term injury. So just make sure that injury has been completely cleared, completely, you know, able to play. Maybe see what O'Neill says. maybe make sure that he's definitely in training as well, because he will be a really, really good pick for 5.5 million. Again, if you're looking for that cheap enabler, that potentially could offer up some really, really good, you know, kind of money elsewhere to go and buy the kind of big hitters for game week 34. But Wolves, like I said, they're a very, very interesting team. They've got some really, really good players. I think these three are the top three that I would potentially be looking to go and identify ahead of double game week 34. But like I said, Aït-Nouri is going to be the top pick. Just make sure that he has recovered from that potential calf injury. And finishing up today's video, I wanted to take a look at two other teams that do double and are yet to basically play in game week 32. Arsenal are currently playing at the time of recording. It is 0-0 in that game. I have identified 3 players I think they should be essential. Whether you're on the free hit or whether you are looking for transfers leading into that game week, there are some other good options as well that have missed out on this list. We're going to start off with Gabriel. I think he just has that little bit more attacking threat than Saliba. Both are really good picks, but for the price, I think Gabriel is the better option. Raya, if you do need a goalkeeper, I know some people that are in the position where they've got Areola and Turner. If you are looking for a goalkeeper that does double in game week 34, I think Raya as well is a very, very safe pair of hands for this double game week. Saka, obviously there was a lot of doubts about whether or not he was going to play this game week. He has played. We'll have to wait and see how he does in this game week against Brighton, but he is back. He is fully fit and available. So if you potentially have sold him ahead of this game week, maybe want to potentially look at potentially looking to get back in for the double game week, because, you know, Arsenal still in this title race as well. So very much that double game week could be the week that potentially signifies what happens in terms of the Premier League chase. And you do feel like Saka is one of those players that potentially could have an influence on that. Obviously, Arsenal do have Champions League football midweek against Bayern Munich, a really, really difficult test for them. But, you know, Bayern have just lost to a newly promoted side for the first time since 2000. So maybe Arsenal go into that game with a little bit more confidence, but that will have an impact on the weekend, then the potential double game week as well. So we might see a little bit of risk and rotation. And with Saka, you know, kind of, I feel like for the past few months, he's been kind of holding back on injuries, you know what I mean? He just needs maybe 1 or 2 games where he might be rotated, might be dropped like he was in midweek. We potentially could see that happen again. So just an on the caution on that one. Make sure he gets through the Brighton game. Make sure he gets through the Bayern game as well, if you are potentially thinking about bringing him in for the double game week or game week 33. Martin Odegaard is one of my favourite players to own from Arsenal, to be honest. He's a regular, consistent minutes man. He is the captain as well and picks up with the odd goal and assist. In terms of his attacking data as well, it is pretty steady. I wouldn't be expecting anything phenomenal, but for what you get with Martin Odegaard, you cannot complain. Obviously, all these Arsenal players as well, please just do make sure they make it through the Brighton game. Like I said, this is being recorded while that is being played. I think in terms of other players that you might potentially want to go and have a look at, I think Ben White is probably a no, especially with Urian Timber coming back from injury. I think that's a no. Tomiyasu as well in the squad. Champions League football, I think there might be a bit of churn, potentially some rotation as well. Probably only would be going for Gabriel or Saliba from the back line. Raya as well, probably a safe pair of hands if you're looking for a goalkeeper. And then Havertz as well. Yeah, I just can't get on board with it. I think I prefer these other 2 midfielders over Kai Havertz. And then other than that, I don't think there are any other Arsenal assets you potentially should be looking at for game week 33 or for the double in game week 34. And finishing up today's video, we are going to take a look at Liverpool and their potential assets ahead of double game week 34. Again, they are yet to play in game week 32, so just err on the caution of potentially early bringing any of these players in. Make sure they make it through the Manchester United game, then the Europa League game as well on Thursday for Liverpool. In terms of their players, I feel these 3 probably are the big hitters that you need to be looking to go. Salah probably is going to be a captain for game week 34, so if you're not on a free hit, he probably would be up there as one of my ideal candidates. Obviously had the most shots for any player in the Premier League against Brighton. Midweek against Sheffield United, little bit disappointing, obviously coming away with 1 point in the end, but I do feel he is one of those players that for that double game week you must own and will be one of probably the highest captain players. So if he pops off and you don't have him, he could have a detrimental impact on your rank. Luis Diaz, I think, is a nice differential. Maybe if you're looking for some midfield options, doubles in game week 34. Probably one of the players, though, that would be a little bit prone to rotation with Gakpo and others. Harvey Elliott as well, with European football coming up for Liverpool back on the calendar for their Europa League campaign as well. So he might see a little bit of rotation, but I think he could be a nice little differential in that midfield slot. And then Darwin Núñez. It's always swings and roundabouts with Darwin Núñez. You never know what you're going to get. Obviously scored a goal midweek against Sheffield United. Very fortunate to get it. Obviously was just in the right place at the right time when the goalkeeper kicked the ball. But he is very capable of going and getting a double-digit haul. We've seen it from his expected data throughout the whole of the campaign. He is one of those players that magically can pick up enormous amounts of XG, but still managed to miss plenty of opportunities. But for the double game week, he's probably a player I would be looking to go and bring in, especially with Tony not doing exceptionally well. I know Watkins, there's obviously been the concerns around his injury. I know he went and got 2 goals today, but I think with his negative fixtures, and if you wildcard in 35, I think it does make sense to make the move from Watkins to Darwin ahead of the double game week, in my personal opinion. But like I said, just make sure that Darwin does make it through. Obviously, McAllister is another player that people have been kind of hounding me for in my stream. I think it's now 4 attacking returns in a row, or potentially 3 attacking returns as well. It seems like he's picking them up out of nowhere. And for me personally, I'm not 100% a big fan of it. I still feel like he feels like Douglas Luiz was a few months back, when he was kind of getting fluky penalties and long shots and not really being a very good consistent scorer, but just magically picking up points randomly. That's how it feels with McAllister at the moment. Seems to be in that purple patch where he is scoring goals. I know a lot of us have had a lot of good times with McAllister, especially last season, but remember, he was on penalties at Brighton, and that is such a huge asset, as we've seen so far this season with the likes of Cole Palmer as well. It can have a massive impact on the game. He's not going to have penalties for Liverpool. I feel he's been quite fortunate to get the goals and assists he's got so far, so I wouldn't probably be recommending him. I think these are the 3 guys that I would be looking to go for. It looks like Kelleher might just about see game week 34 out, so if you are holding on to him or potentially looking for a goalkeeper, I probably wouldn't recommend bringing him in. It does look like Alisson could be back in training this week or next week ahead of double game week 34, so Kelleher will lose his place. So probably one that I might hold and hope for the best. In terms of a transfer, I wouldn't be looking to bring him in. Same goes for Connor Bradley as well. It does look like Trent should be back in training next week, so probably would avoid going for Connor Bradley on my wildcard or any transfers in general for him. But like I said, these are probably going to be the top 3 Liverpool guys you should be going for this game week. That was the transfer targets video. If you did enjoy it, be sure to like, comment, and of course subscribe to the channel. That would be massively appreciated by me. But thank you very much for watching today, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck this game week.